This is Beth from Around the Table Yarns, and tonight is the final night for the Knit Sweater Club for January to June of 2025. We are finishing the Petunia Pullover by Ainur Berkimbayeva, and we're really excited about this project. It's been a fun project, and I've seen a lot of people's finished items already. So I've seen some of the adult grown-up versions, which are some are subtle and they used very tone on tone kind of colors to do the vertical striping. And then some did some brights. We had one person who did red and white, and then for the sleeve did blue and white, or blue and white, and then for the sleeve did red and white. But it looks fantastic and also great for the 4th of July. I have two friends who did them for their grandchildren and did two pink and pink striped sweaters. One's a sweater dress and one's a sweater for their granddaughters. And I've been doing a child size as well. So I finished my knitting, the main part of the knitting for my child size 4. And as you can see, it's size the size 4 is I think for like a 10 8-year-old. So too small for me, but uh, for a nice sized child. And what I have left to do, I've done, and we've already demonstrated sewing up under the arms. We've done the 3 needle bind off. We've done all of those things. I have not started weaving in my ends, but I have started one of my sleeve cuffs. And so I'm going to show you how to pick up around the neck, actually. As opposed to around the sleeve cuff. But I'm going to talk about how many stitches I picked up because I did gather it in a little bit, and I think that that's a nice option because these are sort of full sleeves. And the other thing is, obviously, this is knitted in 2 colors, this orange and green. And of the orange and the green, I had like this much left of each. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to do all of the cuffs and the hem and the neckline in the same color because I was thinking I might not have enough. So what I decided is that I'm going to do my cuffs in the green. So you can see this cuff is started in the green. So I'm going to do the 2 cuffs in the green, and I'm going to do the neckline in the orange. And then that way I should have enough for both. I just double checked. You do not use a different size needle. I don't think. I'm just double checking. Just says the 16-inch of the double points. So I just want to make sure that the 16-inch of the double points are not a different size. Yep, all the same size. So all of the needles, it's a garter stitch sweater, all of the garter, all of the ribbing, everything is on the same size needle that you got gauged with. All right, so let's switch over to the camera view. Let's see if we can get that into focus. And here's my sleeve in progress. And I'm doing this magic loop because it's too small for me to pick up on a 16-inch needle. So I picked up all of the stitches around on a longer, like a 30-inch, a needle with a 32-inch cable. And I'm just going around and around in magic loop. And I'll show the bind off on that one. I'm just going to bind off in pattern, actually. It's not anything too complicated. So I want to just pick up around the neckline. And I am going to do this one on a smaller needle. Get this out of the way. So I would start, here's my join. Here's my join here. And I just finished, my 3 needle bind off there. There's a little divot in that space. And so I'm just going to start there with my pickup so that I can have a nice, I can hide that little divot. So now I am using my 16-inch needles. I have the right side of the work facing me, and I'm going to pick up in I think of these as valleys and ridges. So I'm going to pick up in the valley. But I've seen other people pick up in the ridge. So when I pick up in the valley, I look that I have two legs of a stitch. You can see I have two legs of a stitch. So I'm one stitch width in from the edge, and I'm going to pick up one for the green, one for the orange, one for the green, one from the orange, all the way around. To start, I don't even make a slip knot, I just make a loop with my yarn and pull that loop through to the front. So I'm going to do it again. I go in the first stripe, one stitch width, so two legs is a stitch. So I am two legs from the edge. Loop. So my needle is going from the front of the work to the back of the work. I loop the yarn around the back and I pull that new stitch through. And then I'm going to go through the orange stripe. Now, what I like to do here is cross my tail over my working yarn. So when I loop this around now, I'm making a stitch with my working yarn and bringing it through. It's trapping the tail as I go. Now I'm going to go to the next stitch. I see that my camera would like to be in focus one of these days. There we go. So going into the next stitch, and I just loop that tail back over the working yarn. My needle is going from the front of the work to the back of the work. I pick up the working yarn at the back and pull it to the front. And we're just going to do that all the way around. And after I've anchored it on two or three of the stitches, I stop working with the tail. I'm going to weave that tail in separately. So now I'm just picking up one stitch for every stripe of my collar all the way around. Pause and we'll finish going around. So I've picked up and I'm all the way back to the last one. So I've picked up one stitch in each of the stripes all the way along, and I'm ready to start with the next row. And you can see that my 16-inch needle was perfect for this. I'm going to be able to join easily without too much stretching. So all you need to do to join it in the round is continue working. You might want to put a stitch marker here to let you know that you have uh, come to the end of the round, so you can keep track of how many rounds you're doing. And I'm going to knit one and purl one all the way around. So I picked up the stitches all the way around, and now I'm just knit one, purl one. And I'm going to do that for several rows. The pattern tells you to pick up, continue and knit on the neckline and the hem and the cuffs. They have you do five or six stitches for the children's sizes, 5 or 6 rows, sorry, for the children's sizes. And so follow the pattern for your size for how many. She does have decreases in the cuffs, and so we want to talk about that. The decreases are worked in the first round. So you pick up all of the stitches all the way around, and then you're going to decrease in that first round. So in other words, in this round, she has you whoa, knit one, knit two together all the way around. So that decreases the number of stitches by a third. So the way that that looks, so that's before you start knitting and purling. So you would knit one, knit two together. Whoop, my apologies. You'd knit one, and then you would knit two stitches together. This is for the cuffs, not for the neckband. Knit one, knit two together, and that would decrease the number of stitches around the armhole opening by 1/3. Um, so it brings it in a little bit tighter. So you can see that I've done that here, and that's why it's a little bit tighter. And I've done 2, 3, 4, 5. I've done my 5 rounds on the sleeve, on the cuff. So I'm ready for my bind off. So here's my cuff, and it's drawn in, and the bind off is done in pattern, starting with a knit and a purl. So you're going to knit one, purl one, and then pull the first stitch you worked over the last stitch you worked. And that gives you one stitch on the right needle. Move the yarn to make the next stitch, knit one, pull the pull the purl stitch over the knit stitch. Bring the yarn to the front and purl. Pull the knit stitch over the purl stitch. I just want to point out that you want to be as loose as possible as you're doing this bind off. So you want to make these stitches. When you make the next stitch, you naturally pull on this working yarn and it tightens up the stitch before you. So when you make the stitch, be really generous as you're pulling it over. See how I'm over it's kind of oversized. And then don't adjust that. Don't try and tidy it up because you want to have a nice elastic cuff. So the best advice I ever had on binding off for cuffs and for necklines and for hems is to be sloppy. Do not try and tidy up all your stitches and pull them tight. See how I'm leaving that kind of loose and pulling up? And that's so when you go to move this ribbing, a hand can come through it and it doesn't wear on your, it doesn't wear out and fray for the person who's going to be using it, the person who's going to be wearing it. So always try to be intentionally sloppy on your bind off. Another piece of good advice for people who struggle to have a nice elastic bind off is to use a bigger needle. It's an easy way to make sure that these stitches stay bigger. So if you can't be sloppy, if you always pull on your stitches, then get a bigger needle. And you don't need, it doesn't need to be even the needle that this is sitting on. You can just grab a bigger needle and use it for the right hand as you're binding off. So a nice loose bind off guarantees that you will not have a restrictive or constricted cuff or neckline or hem. So there's half of the stitches done, and you can see that there's give still. It's still pulled in. They look tidy, even though I was super loose. They look tidy, and they're going to make a really nice cuff for my sweater sleeve. So that's all the pieces of making this sweater. We've got the neckline, we've got the cuffs. We're going to do the same thing on the hem. We're going to follow the directions for picking up the stitches on the hemline and just go down and do a few rows of ribbing there. And then my whole sweater will be done. I'm going to post it on our Ravelry group for Finish Something because I'll have finished it. So I just want to take a second and talk about our next project. So the next project is the Baseline Cardigan from Suzanne Summer, whose name on Ravelry is Sosu, Sosu Knits. This pattern is $8.20 in US dollars. I think it's €7. I'm not sure. 7.50, but it's $8.20 today. It'll change. If you purchase it from us, you'll get a 10% discount. If you purchase your yarn for the project from us, you'll get a 10% discount. You either tell us that when you're in the store purchasing or make a note on your online purchase and we will give you a discount sort of retroactively on the order. We'll give you a refund of the 10% for the project materials. We don't do Ravelry sales online. You can just buy it directly from Ravelry if you're doing it online. I want to talk a little bit about the Sosu cardigan. I'm going to show just the finished measurements schematic. And I just want to talk a little bit about getting ready for this. So here's, oh, doesn't seem to have that. All right, here we go. I'm not going to give detailed information about it out because this is a for purchase pattern. I would like it to come into focus. That would be nice. Okay. Um, mhm. Still kind of blurry, isn't it? All right. Here we go. That should come into focus. So this project is knitted from the center out towards the sleeves. Let's focus. Apologize, you seem to have trouble focusing today. There we go. That's better. All right. So the pattern is written in sizes that range from her numbered size 1 to 8.5. So there's 16 sizes. Number 1 starts with, just so you know, the bust is 35 3/4 inch is the smallest circumference for A, and 68 3/4 inch is the largest size for A. So it is very generously and amply sized. She asks that you measure your chest measurement and add 10% ease. So an easy example of that is if you measure around yourself, around your body, and you measure 40 inches around here, then you would want to add 4 inches, 10% ease. And so you would want to do either the 2.5, which is 43, or the 3, which is 45 3/4. So you would pick if you wanted a little bit less loose or a little bit looser, a little bit tighter, a little bit looser, but this would be in the ballpark for her ease. When we measure, we are now recommending that you measure your underarm upper chest measurement. In other words, if you're a woman, this would be above your bust line, directly under your armpits, with the tape measure held as levelly as possible along that line. This measurement is a better estimate of your skeletal frame and does not involve anything extra or missing that you might have in your bust. So many times, women mistakenly size themselves based on their bust line instead of their skeleton. And what I mean by that is that your body is generally very proportionate. Your shoulders and your upper chest measurement are going to be relatively similar. So even though your bust line might change that, or your belly might change that, or your butt might change that, these aspects of the sweater are where it fits. And so if you use the bust line or the belly or the hemline to determine the shoulders of your sweater, it's going to fit more loosely. So we're really trying to get people to use the upper chest measurement and then add 10%. So you would measure around your upper right under your armpits, essentially, right in your armpits. Another thing that we're recommending is that you measure a sweater that fits you exactly the way you would like this sweater to fit you. Or just measure a sweater that fits you well and get an idea of what that measurement is and whether you would like one that's looser or more fitted. I have a sweater that I finished for the first cardigan. Sorry, the put together, the pieces cardigan, the quintessential cardigan. And I was really surprised because I laid it out to measure. I've worn it several times and I really like the fit of it. And this measurement here was 2 inches less than I thought it would be. And so it made me think, oh, then I would probably like to be in this range for making my baseline cardigan. So do check clothing that you wear that you think fits you the way this fits you, or this the way you would like this to fit you. And the other thing that's really important for is the length. Cardigans are different from sweaters. If they're cropped, it's okay if you're wearing it for a woman, particularly if you're wearing a crop sweater over a dress. But a crop sweater is more of a shoulder warmer than like a cardigan that comes down much lower. So you have lots of options for length, and the length measurement is given here in F. And they give a whole, or Suzanne gives a whole bunch of different lengths. So the two pieces of information that you're going to need is to know what your upper bust measurement is and what that plus 10% is in relationship to these different sizes, and what length you want it to be, which is not related to your bust measurement at all. It's just how long do you want it to come down on your body. The third choice you have to make with this pattern is what style of neckline you want. So the styles include a round neck here and, oh, maybe not. I thought I had a picture that had all of them. Hold, please. I don't have a picture with all of them. I have a picture with fronts and backs. All right, well, I'm not going to show that because it's on the pattern. The neckline of this sweater has three variables. One is a round neck, which is out further from the neck of the wearer. So it's like 8 inches across. And then there's one that's 6 inches, so it's closer fitting to the neckline, to the neck, the actual neck of the wearer. And then there's a V-neck version, and each of these are possible. So you get to choose what your circumference is, and I'd like you to base that on your actual measurement or the measurement of an actual sweater. And then you get to choose how long you want it, whether you want a cropped sweater or a mid-length sweater or a very long tunicky sweater. And then using that information, we'll be able to pick how much yarn you need to buy. This the The pattern gives extensive information based on the size you pick for how much yarn you will need to complete it. And I am recommending, if you choose, it's for one color or two colors as written in the pattern. And I am recommending that if you are going to use a contrasting color for the border or the cuffs or the pockets, that you get a separate extra ball for that border. I think that will give you much more than you actually need, but we don't want you to run out if you're not doing it exactly as the pattern's written. The pattern's written for either one or two colors. So if you're using a third color, then I just want to make sure that you have additional. The next sweater is, again, the Baseline Cardigan by Suzanne Summer and Sosu Knits, and we are starting that on July 21st, 2025, and that will be in Sweater Club in the morning at 10 a.m. or Eastern Time, or at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Zoom. The 6 p.m. Eastern Time Zoom will be recorded and will be available here on the same channel. So that's what we're looking forward to. Please feel free to contact the store at info@aroundthetableyarns.com or call us at 216-230-9224. We are open every weekday and weekend, but we will be closed on the 4th of July. We are open and answering the phone between 11 and 5, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or between 10 and 6, Tuesday through Thursday. If you leave us a message, it goes to our voicemail and we see it it goes to our voicemail and it also goes to our email. So we see it in our email and we're able to respond to it there. So please do not hesitate to leave a message. We will get back to you. That's everything about Sweater Club for tonight. I'm really excited about being done with this. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's. I do encourage you to post this. It's our Finish Something Challenge through the end of September. So if you get it done, post it in the Finish Something Challenge, especially if you get it done between June 20th and September 22nd, because those are the parameters of the challenge. I hope you've enjoyed it and let me know if there's any questions or comments. Again, I'm Beth, Around the Table Yarns in Shaker Heights, Ohio, info@aroundthetableyarns.com or 216-230-9224. Thanks so much for doing this with us, and I hope we see you next time.